And for any fan who's a big fan of Lost, is a big fan of Marc Oromaner. I've already seen the presentation in the city, and that thumbs up from me. Marc?
Thank you very much, Hannibal. I'm just going to give a little rundown of the show. It's the story of basically a flight 815 from Australia flies and crashes on this mysterious island, and what's so crazy about this island is that you see, first of all, ghosts of dead characters. You see this invisible monster. There's these numbers that keep popping up all over the place. And the numbers that keep popping up, not only do you see them on the island, but they also appear in the characters' flashbacks. And we see flashbacks that occur. All these characters, they seem to have these major issues. Most of them have daddy issues, some of them have mommy issues, but they've all got something going on. And in addition to that, in the flashbacks, we also get to see that all these characters are connected, interestingly enough. One of the characters might be getting served in a diner, and he's being served by a waitress who happens to be one of the character's mothers, another character's mom. There's one scene where a character is in Korea, and who happens to be on TV, but another one of the characters. So we see all these scenes where they're somehow related to each other. So there's definitely a lot of mysteries that are going on with the show, but what's interesting about Lost is that it gives us all these clues. First of all, we'll see in just the character names. The characters are named after either philosophers or writers or scientists. So there's definitely something going on with the character names. In addition to that, we see the characters reading these interesting books. A brief history of time, Watership Down, and all the themes of these books seem to be tied into Lost. It's almost as if the writers are saying, we know this show is really confusing, but look, here's a book over here, and this kind of talks about the same theme. And they do that with songs too. I mean, they keep playing these interesting songs. There was a song Shambhala by Three Dog Night. I feel like there are secret messages that are in everything, and especially music was kind of my first hint. I used to notice when I used to go to bed at night that the songs that would wake me up in the morning would always have something to do with what was going on in my life in that moment. A theme that's happened recently on Lost is the whole idea of time travel, and with fate versus free will, this is something that, it's really all about, the idea of the constant. That is it basically fate that whatever happened, happened, and you're stuck in your life, and that's going to be it. Or it's the variable, and you can actually change things. There's actually different Hollywood movies that do it the different ways. Like Back to the Future, he was able to change things. So that's the idea of freedom of choice. But in the Terminator, whenever they went back and changed something, it had already happened. So it's a different idea. So that's how it relates mythologically, but it also even relates in a scientific level, because I don't know if you guys know, but Angels and Demons is out this weekend, and for those who haven't seen the movie or read the book, they talk about this huge science conglomerate called CERN. And basically what they have, and this is a real thing, in CERN they have this huge particle collider. And a lot of people believe that these particles are smashing together so quickly that it's going to cause little black holes that could actually suck up the Earth. This is true. I'm not making this stuff up. And actually, there's all these scientists that wanted to get this thing shut down. And they lost the fight, and they turned it on last year. Unfortunately, the whole thing broke after about an hour, and they're about to start it up again right now, just as the movie's coming out, which is interesting. And there are some scientists that believe that this can actually start time travel. Now, it's only going to be these little black holes that create these little time warps, but what's interesting is that once you have time travel, people from the future can come visit us. And that's what a lot of theoretical scientists believe. So for those of you that don't watch Lost, I'm just going to now talk about some of the themes of some of the other movies that have been out. Have you guys noticed that, last summer, there were a lot of superhero movies. There was The Dark Knight, there was The Hulk, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Hellboy, and now there's Wolverine. What's the message there? I think that, I'll get to that in a minute, but it's interesting because all these superhero movies are coming out, and this summer there's a lot of time travel things, because there's time travel now on Lost. There was the new Star Trek movie, which was about time travel. And there's Land of the Lost that's coming out, and there's Terminator, so now there's all these time travel movies. So what's going on? What's the message? I feel that the writers that come up with these movies, they're sort of like modern-day shaman. They basically are taking this energy that existed, somewhere in the universe from the collective unconsciousness, and they channel it to all of us, and they interpret it for us, and they give us these messages that can help us in our lives. It's just like shaman long ago. A shaman is basically like a medicine man. They exist in tribal societies. There are many that exist actually today. They're gaining in popularity again. And they act as sort of this go-between between the spiritual world and our world. And what they used to do is they used to get these messages from other realms, and they used to interpret it in the form of stories and give us these messages that form the basis of our myths. And everyone would gather around this flickering fire, and they would tell the stories. And in fact, nothing has really changed. We still, to this day, we get our stories when we're, sitting around instead of a flickering fire, we sit around a flickering movie screen or a television screen in the dark. And why do we like to sit in the dark? Because we're in the dark before we're enlightened, and that's when we get our message. So that's what that's all about. So, what is the point? What's happening? What's the message that Lost is telling us that everything is going on? If this time travel thing really happens, it's kind of funny because those of us that watch Lost will be ready for it. And if we actually start skipping because of what's happening on the whole CERN thing, or people believe in 2012 there might be this new energy that is going to be coming our way, and there's all this stuff on the internet about our DNA and how it could flip and mutate, and we might be getting this new consciousness. And if all this craziness happens, I kind of feel like the world is going to be going berserk, and Lost fans are going to be like, it's okay, you can chill out. Time is just kind of like a record, and right now it's skipping, and we're in this time and we're in that time, but I kind of feel like we'll be able to help out everyone else with what's going on in the world and be able to help them through it. There was an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation called Cause and Effect. Do you remember this one where they're all playing cards? It basically starts off and they're all playing cards, and one of the characters, Data, knows what the first officer's hand is going to be. And it's kind of weird. And then one of the characters starts explaining of having a headache. And they go to the infirmary. The nurse goes to the infirmary. Later she goes back to her quarters, and she's hearing whispers. And then later they see this, they're going to this space rift, this weird thing going on in space. And another spaceship comes out of it, collides into them, and they all die. They go to commercial, they come back, they're all playing cards again. And the same thing keeps happening over and over again, like they're stuck in a time loop. And they come to find out the whispers, just like on Lost, is the voices of them. And soon, Data notices that he has all the same cards in his hand. He keeps having threes, and there's threes everywhere. And it was his decision that when they tried to escape in the ship, he made the decision that everyone listened to. But once he sees all the threes that are in the cards, he notices that the first officer has a three-stripe insignia on his shirt, and he decides to go with his advice instead. So basically, they're able to avoid the problem. So what's funny with the numbers, that's like the repeating thing on the show, the numbers are the serial number of the Swan Station. So it was maybe telling, all the Losties that maybe they should have gone with the Swan Station, they should do something with the Swan Station, or maybe they shouldn't have exploded the bomb. Maybe they're going to loop back next season, and they're going to be given another chance all over again. So that's kind of like the whole nosebleed thing. There might be headaches. If you take it to a deep level, like the whole idea that we have to grow ourselves like a vibration level to evolve, and the people that don't might get the nosebleeds and they might get the headaches, and the people that have challenged themselves in life and gone through a lot of troubles, and whatever doesn't kill you can only make you stronger. And if this stuff starts to happen, we'll know right away who these people are. My advice is just the people that notice, the people that judge themselves by what they have rather than what they are probably in for more of a challenge with what's to come, and based on all this 2012 stuff and everything else. So I started off this presentation saying, why is everybody obsessed with Lost? My answer is because I believe that on a subliminal level, on a subconscious level, we're getting these deep messages. And if we can kind of put it together and understand the metaphors and the mythology, there's a message there for all of us, and we see the challenges of each of the characters that are on the show. It's kind of funny because I kid around with one theory in the book that it's not my main theory, but it's a theory that I thought would have been really funny if this ends up being the last episode of Lost. Imagine this, it's finally the end of the 6th season. We're down to the last episode. We still don't have the answers to the smoke monster, to the numbers, to anything else. The major mysteries are like, when are they going to tell us? It's the last hour, the last 15 minutes, finally the last 5 minutes, and every single character on the show puts on a Dharma uniform. And they start to look at the camera, and they say, Namaste. Thank you for joining us in the world's greatest experiment ever conducted in the history of mankind. For the last 6 years together, we have discovered that everything happens for a reason, that we are connected, that challenges help make you stronger. And throughout this time, and then they intercut different shots of people watching the show, and all throughout the world, and people are like freaking out. And basically the whole thing is that this is it. That just like Dharma being this, people would go crazy if this was the answer. There would probably be riots in the streets. But part of me would laugh, because I just think it's funny that we are part of, it's sort of like we're all in a game of life, and we all have these challenges, just like a video game that the characters have, to basically solve our own issues. Well, thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. There's a lot more information in the book, full of lots of great stories and mythology, and thank you.